On this episode, we talk about Carson Hocevar and Josh Berry getting full-time rides for the Truck and Xfinity series.
They're finally hanging out rides, the ones who show that they got the skills to do it on track.
Then to add more to the silly season pot, rumors have it that Kurt Busch has 2 offers, which then on top of that expands even more rumors across the Cup garage.
He's confirmed there are 2 deals. There were 3 deals. One of those deals is gone. I can confirm that.
As always, our esport expert Seth Eggert shares the latest iRacing League news.
And with a walk-off win to make the playoffs, Matt Bussa of Mode Media House won the race, made the playoffs.
Let's not forget a wild weekend out at Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the road course.
It was fun. The whole weekend was an absolute blast.
And don't forget to stick around to the end where we share our predictions with the Truck Series racing at Gateway and then Xfinity and Cup racing on the Michigan Oval. Welcome to the Kickin Show.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Kickin Show, the official podcast of Kicking the Tires. I'm your show's host, Jerry Jordan. We got Justin Schuler out in Lockdownville in California, and Seth Eggert in North Carolina, and Zach Catanzarelli in North Carolina as well. What's going on, guys?
Not much.
Not much.
We have our ballots for recalling our governor, so that's fun to deal with right now.
Are you allowed to show that on camera?
Yeah, this is just the front, so literally everyone gets this because it's there's no personal information on the front. So I can't show you the back because it's got my signature, my voter ID for their system.
Well, cover that up and let me see how you voted.
No, it's already sealed.
Oh, I know how you voted.
I know you know how I voted. I know Seth and Zach probably know how I voted.
He's out of there.
Can I come to Newsom's birthday party too?
Why don't you just man up and come to Texas?
Man, that's what I want to do, because especially with what's going on with Rachel right now, they're kind of not giving her hours. But yeah,
come on, we'll hire you, and you don't have to get a vaccine. So
it's tempting.
Well, let's move on to talk about what's going on in the world of NASCAR this week. I missed the show last week, sort of, and we can talk about that later. But Carson Hocevar going full time with Nice, and Al Nice picking up in 2022. Seth, you familiar with that, or?
Yeah, Carson's driving for Nice right now, and he made the playoffs, if I remember correctly. Zach, I know you have been following it as well, but Carson's actually been running very well in the past few weeks. Granted, he struggled at first, but I think any rookie would struggle with no qualifying or practice.
Yeah, it's definitely not one of the times it's not one of the best times to be a rookie in the sport, obviously, these last couple of years. And we've seen him, elevate, throughout the ARCA series. He ran a little bit there, never won, but when he joined the Truck Series, he did a little bit last year, but full-time this year with Nice is how it's turning out to be. And he turned from a driver that I really didn't see a whole lot of potential in him. There's just so many young drivers, so it's really hard to distinguish somebody from a guy who might be running in 10th to 20th. But I mean, he got into that Nice Motorsports truck, and he's done quite well this year. You mentioned that he made the playoffs. He did. He's been contending for wins at some point in this season. He was 3rd at Darlington, 2nd at Charlotte. I feel like he's really stood out from a lot of the younger drivers who have been getting opportunities, at other teams, GMS, teams like that. So really excited to see him back. I think he's definitely got a personality. I mean, I saw him on the grid at Watkins Glen a couple weeks ago with the what was it, Waffle House hat?
A Waffle House bucket hat, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Just even something like that. Anything that a driver does fashion-wise or personality-wise that we get to know a little bit more about them, I love that. So and he's great with interviews, and he's pretty damn good at the track. So I think Nice hit a home run to hang on to this kid for another year.
That was
AJ Allmendinger. Sorry.
That was a bucket hat, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure we pronounce that right. It was a bucket with a B hat.
Yeah, a bucket hat. And I don't think I've ever seen him without a bucket hat. And I'm emphasizing that now because of you, Jerry, just to have a little bit of fun. But
bucket.
yeah.
Well,
But
and speaking of, I want to move on real quick because the next guy, I thought he was washed up, done, and gone after making a name for himself this year. Josh Berry gets a full-time deal. Is it like is it this time of the year when you get a ride and you get a ride and you get a ride?
Well, if you earn it, I guess they're finally hanging out rides the ones who show that they got the skills to do it on track. And Josh Berry, I mean, he's gotten loads of opportunities this year, and I feel like he's earned every single one. I mean, we've been talking about him for years and years. I forget when he made his debut with JRM years ago at, I think, Richmond or somewhere
in 2014.
Yeah, and he was getting top tens his first few starts there, but we just never saw him. It was like once every year. But finally this year he was given a ride in that number 8 for JRM, and it certainly wasn't full time, but he did 8 or 10 races or so, and he's done fantastic, really. I mean, he got the win at Martinsville, a couple seconds. He was in the one car for Michael Annett a few weeks ago.
He'll be in the one car again this weekend at Michigan.
Yeah, for this weekend. And he was with Jordan Anderson, and he got multiple top 10s with them. The truck series with the Rackley War, he's done quite well. Finished 11th or better, I think, in half the races, which is an improvement from what Timothy Peters was doing. So overall, I mean, Barry's done all he can to prove that he deserves to be not only just in a race car, but in a high-level race car running for championships. So Dale Jr., good job. I know he's been wanting to do it for a long time, but just when you're a team owner, you got to look at the dollars and cents. And for a while, it just didn't make sense to put him in a car because the money wasn't there. But thankful to see that came together, because I think he's going to be a fantastic addition to the series next year.
Well,
Yeah, I want to say something.
That,
go ahead.
I was going to say, on top of all that, too, you were mentioning all his great finishes, his win at Martinsville. Didn't he have like 2 races he missed, and he was still like 14th or 15th in the points?
Yeah, right now he's, I think, 18th, and he is, I want to say he's like 20 or 30 points behind Ty Gibbs in the rookie of the year points. Mm-hmm. So the two of them, there's a chance that if Josh gets enough races, he could still win Rookie of the Year.
I want to point something out. Everybody thinks, oh, it's Dale Jr. He's got all the money in the world. That may be true. He probably doesn't have all of it, but he's got a lot of it. But he worries about running out of money. This is the frugalness of Dale Jr., okay? I interviewed him one time. We're sitting there. It went from interview to just kind of chatting. And just kind of shooting the breeze with him. And I said, what do you say to those people that say, he's like, it could all be gone really quickly. This is racing. Right. You can spend a lot of money if you're not careful. And he worries about that. He watches the nickels and dimes, because those nickels and dimes add up to, dollars. And dollars in this sport are hard to come by. So, good for him. And to all those fans out there that say, yeah, he should just do this. Well, he's a smart businessman also. So
I will say this, I just have to laugh. I wasn't expecting us to talk about Dale Jr.'s frugalness when I played his eBay car up here from a few years ago. But
that's where all his dollars and cents have been going.
Yeah. He does buy stuff on eBay, by the way. Yeah.
But going back to Josh Berry, Tire Pros is going to sponsor him in 9 races, and I wouldn't be surprised to see iRacing on his car for a race or two. They typically have been on at least 1 race a year for him, regardless of what series or what he's driving in general.
Well, it's good to see these guys get rides and make big announcements and things like that. We've got one other driver who you guys know I'm familiar with, and that's Kurt Busch. He's got a couple of deals working. They were talking about him earlier this week and different things. He's confirmed there are 2 deals. There were 3 deals. One of those deals is gone. I can confirm that. But what I can also confirm is he's very, very close to letting everyone know where he's going to go. And the rumors are he's going to go to 2311. I think that's a lock. The word I got was deal will be announced soon. Now, getting there is a different situation. I'm hearing a lot of different talk about other movement in the sport. 2311 needs a charter. Front Row Motorsports has 2 charters, in case you're wondering. Front Row Motorsports doesn't want to foot the bill, from what I'm hearing, for the new cars going next year. So Toyota has always wanted a development program and never really had one. Way I'm hearing things, this is speculation and rumor in the garage right now, but Front Row sells their 2 charters to 2311. Michael McDowell goes with 2311 with one of those charters. Maybe Bob owns part of it. Maybe they retain partial ownership of it, whatever. Kurt goes to 2311, which we pretty much know is a lock. Then Front Row goes to an Xfinity truck feeder team. And that's what we're hearing throughout the garage. And Seth, you heard the same thing. It's not like I'm just coming up with this. I was actually talking to a couple other NASCAR reporters. I talked to Jim Utter and Chris Knight earlier today, and we all talked about this. So it's making its way around the garage. But I can 100% confirm that Kurt Busch has not signed a deal as of today.
Correct. And like you said, I have been hearing a lot of the same thing, maybe a little bit different. And again, the way Grapevine works, you'll hear one version of it, I'll hear another version of it. But the general idea is the same, that speculation is that Bob Jenkins doesn't want to fit the bill for the next-gen car. If he doesn't want to foot the bill, somebody else is going to have to, especially with those 2 charters. 2311 wants to expand, and the only other teams that are looking at charters, JRM has mentioned interest in the Cup Series, but they've also put that back to 2023. GMS Racing, the way they announced their Cup program, they implied that it's going to be part-time, and in order to be a charter team, you have to be full-time. So that doesn't leave many other options, and many other teams other than 2311 still looking to expand.
Well, it's definitely an interesting scenario with what's going on, but there are other movements in the garage as well that I'm hearing. Maybe I can talk about some of those next week, but I think the Front Row 2311 thing is probably the most solid thing we have right now. But we still don't know where all the charters are going to shake out and what's going to be next.
And I do also want to mention right now, Front Row Motorsports does have a truck team, technically, with the partnership with David Gilliland Racing that Todd Gilliland drives for, and they did make the playoffs. Whether or not that would mean he goes with them if all this speculation comes to fruition and that truck team goes to Toyota, does that affect David Gilliland Racing at all? There's a lot of moving parts.
Definitely. And go ahead, Justin.
I was going to say, remember how, Trackhouse earlier this year, that whole big announcement, and then I said this was going to be the tremor before the big earthquake. Here we are. Like every team is almost involved with something big, except for I think Hendrick and Gibbs, which even Gibbs has some big movement going on. And stuff like that with Xfinity and Ty Gibbs coming up and stuff like that. So we're going to see. I still don't think silly season is anywhere near as much done as we think it might be, even though it feels like 95% of the field is locked for 2022. I mean, I know Truex has been quiet, but how long does his contract go through? Does it go through 2022 or does it end this year?
Next year.
I was going to say, I think it's next year.
Okay. Because that's another one that's been pretty quiet. And then obviously Matt DiBenedetto, who doesn't have anything lined up. But I mean, yeah, I still don't think we're anywhere near done yet.
Now, Zach, what do you think on some of these drivers that are kind of waiting on, deals to be done so that they can make their announcements?
Well, it's always tough. I mean, I know how it feels, when it comes to knowing drivers and wanting to get answers out of them. And you can tell there's a lot that they want to say. Like, I'm sure Kurt wants to tell you everything that's going on, but that's just not how it works with drivers. I mean, we've spoken about, DiBenedetto and drivers like that. I mean, he's kind of similar to like a Josh Berry, like how we were mentioning drivers who had to fight and claw to get where they are, and then they had to prove what they can do when they're given that opportunity. And Matt just hasn't been able to really rise and give that car what I felt like he was gonna give it, going into 2020 or 2019 or 20. It just hasn't worked out for him. And just in this sport, just when, especially, I mean, he's not even that old, Kurt's getting up there in age, but every single year he puts his car in victory lane, whether the car's good enough to do it or not. I mean, he does it almost every single year, and he's into his 40s. His championship was almost 20 years ago, but he's still competitive. I feel like he's, especially with Larson, once he left Ganassi, I feel like Kurt's done a decent job in kind of handling that team. So he's proven that he's able to stay in this sport for as long as he wants to. He's been with many, many teams over the last 10 years. But for someone like De Benedetto, he's got a lot of years left, and he always has Xfinity to go down to, but not all drivers want to go there. But, John Hunter Nemechek's a great example. You go down to the Truck Series, your name is a championship name now. Everyone sees you in victory lane nearly every single week, and you're not just a cup driver who runs 25th. You're a championship winning, a championship contending driver, and that can do a lot. That can do a lot to help your future.
Let me explain something to you. So I'm playing in a pool tournament. I'm playing a pool like a tour. It's a tour all around the eastern part of Texas, Houston mainly. But we have players that come from all over the country. Had some players from North Carolina last month. I'm ranked. I'm trying to be ranked in the Pro Open in the top 25 at the end of the season. I'm ranked number 32 right now. That may not be like a big deal to you guys, but that's number 32 out of about, I think, 190 people. And I've got glasses now. I don't play like I used to, but so I know what these drivers are trying to do when they're trying to get, a top 20 for me every week or every month in this league, in this this tournament that I play. A top 20 makes me closer to the top 25. So for Matt De Benedetto to get top 10s and top 5s, that puts him closer, in the points, better in the playoff position. He may not make the playoffs, but you know what? Somebody's going to be watching for him, just like they watch for Kurt Busch and Denny Hamlin and everything else. We've seen where people miss it by just 1 or 2 points, and that could make the difference between a deal or a no deal. So I can relate to some degree on those guys just wanting to run well. And I used to think when guys got out of the car and said, "Oh, it was a good points day," well, points matter. They really do. And it matters more than just where you rank. It matters whether or not you have a job at the end of the day. Seth, for you, you've got iRacing coming up. What I've lost track of all the things that Kickin' the Tires have got their name on. So can you enlighten us on what we're doing? Because enlighten the fans on where they can find the only. I'm not gonna say the only, but I would say that we are probably the most prolific media outlet at sponsoring iRacing leagues and races and drivers.
Yeah, we sponsored the FTF Racing League this past weekend. They were at Daytona. Ryan Vargas actually made the show in part thanks to the FTF sponsor provisional. Since we sponsored the race, we helped Ryan Vargas run it. Blake Reynolds from the Coke Series won the race. We also sponsored the Kickin' the Asphalt Racing Series. Unfortunately, I didn't catch that this week because at the same time, the regular season finale for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series was taking place. It was a good race, and with a walk-off win to make the playoffs, Matt Busa of Mode Media House, which is co-owned by Kyle Long, the NFL player, won the race, made the playoffs. Bumping out, I believe it was 2018 champion, might be 2018 champion Ryan Luza to make the playoffs. So the playoff grid is now set 10 drivers. Graham Bolin, Bob Bryant, Busa, as I mentioned, Logan Clampett, Michael Conti, Mitchell DeYoung, Keegan Leahy, Jimmy Mullis, Vicente Salas, and Bobby Zelensky will fight for the championship this year. Conti is the only past champion that made the playoffs. Nick Ottinger, unfortunately, the defending champion, he was running second in the race when the remnants of Hurricane Fred decided to knock his power out.
Ouch.
Yeah, that eliminated him from the playoffs. He was in a must-win situation. And they only have one round before their championship race, which, by the way, is at Texas this year. They're
Texas,
one round.
Yay.
They're one round. Darlington, Bristol, Talladega.
That's quite an interesting roundup of three races in a row.
Yeah, I do not envy them. It'll make for some fun and entertaining viewing, but I'm not sure it's the most fun, especially since 6 get eliminated at the end of the round.
Hey, Seth, you know who else had, they're having some fun in the iRacing series, but you know who else had some fun?
Who?
The drivers at Indy. Because anytime you can Dukes of Hazzard it over the chicanes at a road course race, that's awesome. You know, there was some good racing action on the track, and there was a pass through the grass with Denny getting tapped in the, but there was a disqualification that came with it too. So definitely an epic end to a very long race. Zach, you were there. What was it like?
It was fun. The whole weekend was an absolute blast. I mean, it's obviously the whole thing was a crossover between IndyCar and NASCAR. So, NBC had a big press conference just to talk about how they were going to tell the story of seeing those two series come together, and particularly with the Cup Series with IndyCar sharing the weekend on the same track. It was fascinating to see how the pit crews and all the behind the scenes, how they kind of worked with it, how the media was like. Seeing both come together, it was so cool. And it was my first IndyCar road course race. I've only done the Indy 500 and then Pocono back when they ran there. So this was a big change for me. It was great to see the track, because I've never covered that road course either. I've only done the oval. So just to see the challenges and all the awesome photography sections on where you can shoot through the S's to the infield, that long front straightaway, the long back straightaway underneath the bridge. It led to a lot of opportunities for us. And yeah, there was a lot to talk about. I mean, there was some fun races. I mean, a lot of it stemmed from that curbing in turn 5 and 6 that you mentioned. Tore up a lot of cars. I mean, should it be something that gets adjusted? Maybe, but I mean, cars shouldn't be, swallowing up. I mean, the curbing shouldn't be swallowing up the radiator pans and just destroying cars.
Well,
but then again, a majority of the race, we saw very minor, if not any problems. I mean, just a few here and there. Seth.
I was going to say, for one, this is the same exact curbing that's at COTA, and there were no issues at COTA because it's the FIA Grade 1 curbing. For one thing. For another, when NBC showed the replay right before the curb failed, the tile that was flexing was the number 2 tile, but it was the number 3 tile that failed. So I don't know if I know it was William Byron that hit it, and that ultimately it came apart afterwards. But I don't know if the lap before there was a bunch of debris. I don't know if somebody caught it and there was a piece of debris maybe sticking underneath it that nobody saw that caused it to fail as spectacularly as it did.
Do we have those? I didn't think we had those types of curbing I thought all of our curbing at COTA was concrete, was a rumble strip style.
There's some areas where it's the same FIA Grade 1 curbing because
I didn't see that.
It's an FIA Grade 1 track.
Right, but I mean, it was built so much after Indy.
Yeah,
that I was curious if it might have been different.
They might have been built differently, but it's the same style. Okay,
because I don't remember seeing that type of curbing at COTA. I mean, I've been there several times. I have to look through my photos, but I don't remember seeing exactly that there. But it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, what they had failed, and it shouldn't have failed. But if you think back, we have seen cars go airborne like that at the Roval in Charlotte, not the Michigan Roval that we'll get to later, but the Charlotte Roval. We have seen that type of chaos.
Yeah, we saw it back at Sonoma. I remember the corner that they don't run anymore. Those cars always led to some of the greatest photos of all time. Those cars getting up on two wheels. But I mean, the one reason or the one way that you can avoid this problem, of course, is to not hit the curbs. You can stay on the track and try not to cut the course. I mean, the first two stages went caution free. And, there was a reason why these accidents happened late in the race, and that was because was the curb weakening a little bit by that point? Sure, but of course, drivers were also pushing harder. And as I said, I think that difficulty, that punishment for stepping out of line as a driver, I think that's really important in auto racing. We see it in the conversations with like the infield grass, which I think should be, fixed. But I mean, the cars hit it and it rips the noses off. But you know how you got in the grass? You spun, you made a mistake. You're supposed to stay out of the grass for a reason. And we see that in Formula One where they're eliminating the gravel traps. Now when you overshoot a corner, you're fine because there's a runoff area there to save you. So those mistakes aren't really punished as much. So I get it. Anytime there's something causing problems, the drivers and everybody says, remove it. But I personally like that difficulty, and it led to one of the most memorable races of the year.
I want to point something out. There was, as I teased earlier, there was an issue with grass, and then there was Denny's ass. But here's and Chase,
and then there's the Kickin the Asphalt Racing League.
Yeah, there is. But here's the thing: there is an epic quote from Danica Patrick from several years ago when she was I think it was at Daytona 500, and she came over the radio and she said, "Tell Denny to stay out of my ass," because he kept hitting her and bumping her on the track.
Is that when she went after him after the duel?
Yes, that's when she went after him. Okay. Well, I think Briscoe gave some payback for Danica this past weekend. That they do drive for the same team, or they did. So I think
Chase Elliott back at Martinsville.
Yeah, exactly.
Then he did something pretty similar to him.
And Tony Stewart at Sonoma years ago.
So I'm thinking there's some. I think Denny might have got some payback, even though Briscoe said if he'd have known he was going to get disqualified for going through the grass, he wouldn't have hit Denny. But drivers always just kind of gloss over that fun stuff. But I'm just saying there was a lot of rear end tapping going on.
And just to point out, Briscoe wasn't the only one to go through the grass. Bubba Wallace did as well, the caution previous to that. And it was actually a longer way around the corner, so he wasn't shortcutting it, for one. Somehow he gained positions, but then again, that might have been because of McDowell's wreck at that point. And he got penalized for shortcutting the course, even though it took him longer to go around it. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but he went from, I think it was 13th to 10th, then back to 24th, and got back up to 11th by the checkered flag.
So my question is, if when the deal with Bubba was, it looked like he was just trying to avoid a crash.
Yes.
So if he would have just backed off and gone back to 13th, would NASCAR penalize him?
According to NASCAR, anyone who cut the course or shortcut the course owed them a stop and go in turn 10.
Yeah, because it's not about what you're gaining, it's about what you're avoiding. Like with the Briscoe thing, he didn't gain a position, but he avoided what would have been contact. He would have run through the grass. The same thing happened with Lawson the restart before, and he lost like 5 positions. That's what Briscoe avoided. So it's not really what you gain, it's what you avoid.
Yes, I was just about to say, as a race official, that's 100%, because when we call at our local club, when we call cut course, it's not necessarily if they're gaining time or whatever. It's exactly what Zach said. Everyone else was able to make it through that same corner without any issues, quote unquote, but they were all able to make the same turns that they've been making all day long.
I would call bullshit on the one for Bubba. I think Bubba got screwed.
Maybe not.
Bullshit.
I honestly feel with the last lap with Briscoe giving the spot back and then backing off a bit, I feel like that would be more of one that I would call BS on before Bubba's.
Bubba's car would have been destroyed.
like McDowell's, because he was in front of McDowell.
And Corey
before-
LaJoy's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he would have
Right.
taken
Yeah.
out more than half the field. So I think what he did was prudent and avoiding collision. I think, I don't call him out very often. I think NASCAR got that one wrong. I actually can understand them doing it to Briscoe when he cut through, because it was like, dude, you're fixing to get penalized for that. That's exactly what I was thinking. And then, with Bubba, though, he was literally avoiding a major. It was going to be chaos, total disaster. It was already bad, and it was just going to multiply it by about another 10 cars.
It would have been like the Chris Wright thing in the Xfinity series. Like he was going to hit it like head on.
Yeah.
Go right up.
So
just
we'd have had more. We'd have had more
that point,
photos. We'd have had more cool photos of cars going airborne.
Yeah, I wasn't in that corner, but I was pretty jealous. Except for when like Logano and like Priest were flying into the tires. I'm glad I wasn't there for that, but it led to some pretty good, crazy.
Well, so we did have an Xfinity racing. You mentioned that there was some action in that as well. I didn't get to watch the Xfinity race as much because I had to do some work this past weekend and I was traveling. I was in Chicago for the past week. So take us through the Xfinity race real quick. And then I guess we need to kind of recap the race a little. I guess Justin and Seth, Zach, you guys can do that. And then we've got to talk about this new Michigan Roval race.
Oh gosh.
Well, lap 1, turn 6 for the Xfinity series took out about 7 cars with the orange NASCAR turtle.
The very first lap, yeah.
Yeah, Brandon Brown, Preston Pardus, Brandon Jones, Kevin Harvick.
Wait, Brandon Brown got taken out?
He went over the curb. Yes.
How did he finish the race?
He
Just finished one lap.
Just one lap.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, yeah.
Just one lap.
There were a couple guys. That
Although
were able to
I
go
will
around.
say this is something else that bugged me this weekend. They called Pardus, Brown, and Jones for damaged vehicle policy after going over that curb, but they let Harvick go to the garage for mechanical.
Didn't Harvick like go around a few times under caution and get a lap in, or
Nope.
did he just go straight to garage?
He made one lap and then went to the garage.
Interesting.
Just like Brandon Brown and just like Ryan Sieg.
That is
He was the only one that they said that was mechanical.
Okay, well, let's look at the actual. Let's look at the
maybe his
official
damage
report.
was different. I don't know.
Yeah, so let's see. Let's see. Under the first caution,
Officially, he was out for power steering.
Yeah, because it got broke when he went over the turtle.
yeah.
But-
So
But that's what broke on Preston Pardus's car and Brandon Brown's
So
car.
NASCAR blew another one.
So
I wasn't watching the race, so I can't say much.
I'm not saying it that way. I'm just like,
wait. So what was the actual official cause of the first caution on? I guess technically lap 2.
Preston Pardus stalled.
Okay, so that would be why. So the 90 stalled, and that's what I'm seeing right now in NASCAR's official report.
But
The 90 officially stalled in turn 7. So therefore, the others technically under NASCAR's rulebook are not the cause of caution, and therefore do not qualify for damaged vehicle policy.
But
Now-
they put Jones and Brown out for damaged vehicle policy.
because Brandon Brown and Brandon Jones
definitely should have been, but Brown maybe not.
probably
granted.
not. But I think it's because they started to make repairs on pit road that triggers the clock.
Okay.
Maybe.
Interesting.
But I know a Harvick's team started repairs on pit road because NBC had a camera on the car.
Interesting. Yeah,
So-
maybe they missed it. I mean, look, it happens.
That would be,
you know.
and I wonder what qualifies as like fixing damage versus making a mechanical repair. Because, yeah, that's interesting. Because there's tons of other people who've come down pit road, obviously, and then they
Yeah.
lift the hood or they jack the car way up to get something underneath, or jack up the rear end to look at the rear end or whatever, and then they go to the garage, fix it, and then they're able to come back out, right?
Right.
So I wonder what, yeah, that's interesting then. I'd be curious to see like what NASCAR's statement is on that as far as the differences between those two, and trying to dive into more into the rule book to see like what actually triggers the clock for a DVP possibility.
And also out after hitting that curb, Ryan Sieg when his I believe it was his right rear suspension failed after he hit the curb. Brett Moffitt after his axle broke hitting the curb. Austin Hill when his steering box broke after hitting the curb.
Jeez.
Like I said, lots of chaos at Indy.
Didn't someone say that their frame cracked?
Yeah, in the Cup Series, James Davison.
Okay, jeez.
I'm not surprised.
I don't know if you guys know, but that's literally the last thing that should break.
I'm not surprised.
That's intense.
I'm not surprised though. Seriously. Because the hits were so hard, but some of these guys are racing with chassis and stuff that are very old. It's not the newest technology. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the teams right now are using up all their stuff because they know at the end of the year, it's not going to be good anymore. So, it's, and that's one of the considerations for the new chassis that they're building for next year is how stiff it is, and how much, and whether or not it will have enough flex. There's a lot of concerns about that amongst the different tests that have been going on in the sport. Cindric gets the win in the Xfinity race. I wasn't surprised by that. I was, even though Sarah picked him, shocked by the Allmendinger win.
Yeah, it's the first win by non-chartered team in the charter era.
Really?
Yes.
That's those colleague billions.
Yeah, that's actually true because I guess Justin Haley's win was
with Spire. Yeah.
With their charter. That's crazy. And two, it's the fastest someone had a new team has gotten their win as far as active teams. I think the only other one that's been faster was in 5 starts with Neil Bonnet back in 74.
Damn,
dude, I was 3 in 74. Y'all weren't even born.
Yes, we know, Jerry. But yeah. Neil Bonnet. You know what? Let me pull this up because I'm curious. I can't remember the name of the team he was running for, but
have fun in all those restaurants you can't go to.
Hey, that's why I'm just sitting here looking stuff up, acting totally bored, because that's all I get to do. Yeah. So no, it was 77. So Neil Bonnet won in his 5th race. Let's see. Anyway, go ahead.
Justin, this is why you're not the useless stat guy and Seth is because you have to look this crap up. Seth can just go in 1973.
That's because I look it up ahead of time.
So
here's a stat, Seth. This was his first win in 7 years. When was the last driver to break a streak that was that long?
Technically, Greg Biffle in the Truck Series.
That was a while. That was what, like 20 years?
Yeah, because he wasn't driving for
So. That's why I said technically.
Right.
So, well, it was definitely fun to watch the Cup race. I think it was a little bit of a crap show.
But the funny part about Allmendinger's win was that obviously I did speed down memory lane with him the day before, and one of the videos I showed was like 4 minutes about his Watkins Glen win. And then I think an hour later, he wins the Xfinity pole. And then the very next day, he wins his 2nd Cup race 7 years later. I got a lot of comments of people saying, dude, that was like crazy foreshadowing.
You're his good luck charm.
Yeah, I got to bring that up to him. And tell him.
You need to have him hire you to be, his good luck charm in every race. Just hang out and do his PR or something.
Yeah.
I guess, I forget who is it. Kayla, what's her name that does their PR for colleague?
Carly.
Carly. Yeah, Carly. Carly probably wouldn't be happy with you taking over, but if you're bringing them wins, they might just pay you a stipend for hanging around.
Right. Yeah.
So, by the way, it was Jim Stacy. He had JD Stacy start up in 1977, and then Neil Bonnet won in Stacy's 5th race out at Richmond. So
epic fail. You took too long.
Oh, whatever. It's not that hard to just cut and edit and move it over and then not make myself look like an idiot.
If people only knew how many times you had to do that through the show.
Wow. Hey, if it's taking him this long to know, I guess those edits are actually pretty good.
Hey guys, what are the predictions coming up this weekend for Trucks at Gateway? Isn't this a playoff race for them? And
it is
Xfinity and Cup at the Michigan Roval.
Yep. Oh gosh.
Well, Well,
Good catch.
we'll
Seth.
explain that. Yeah.
Well, let's just talk about it now. 'Cause
Yeah.
apparently, according to Seth shared this, so
A
I'll
Microsoft
credit to him.
thing.
Yeah. So not Google or DuckDuckGo, the one that's actually worse than all the above.
Unless you want the Microsoft rewards to get gift cards anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, oh my gosh, Bing, no wonder why no one uses you. So Bing has the track layout of whenever you type in like NASCAR. And apparently, with NASCAR's huge spiel about going to all these road courses, Bing just magically assumes NASCAR is racing on the Michigan Roval.
We're racing on the big 2.5 mile or 2 mile track that is going to be like 9,000 lanes wide, and you can basically just wait for Kyle Larson to cross the checkered flag and get the checkered flag, and then I think 5 minutes later the rest of the field will show up.
Although I will say Michigan did have a road course prior to the repave. I don't know if it still has the infield road course today.
Oh, it's there.
I know it's there, but I don't know if it's usable. I mean, granted, I know we're not running it, but I'm just saying, just for, to be fair, granted, yeah, Bing, you got it wrong, but it is an actual track. That's all that I'm trying to say.
So who's the prediction? And just again, for clarification's sake, we're racing on the 2 mile track.
Yes, the 2 mile oval.
The 2 mile Roval? Wow, that's
oval.
2 mile oval.
Well, here's the thing. Let's do truck picks first, because the first person to pick for trucks is Jerry.
I'm gonna go out and say John Hunter Nemechek.
Okay. And next for truck picks is Justin.
Oh, geez, I'm next? Oh,
yep.
Man.
And you sucked as bad as I did.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, with trucks, gosh. At Worldwide Technology, and you take John Hunter Nemechek right off the bat, which is no surprise, obviously, because that's kind of the go-to for whoever's picking first. You know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'll go with I'm stuck between Ankrum and Rhodes, but I'm gonna go with Tyler Ankrum.
Okay, and Zach, you're next for trucks.
The trucks, I know who I'm picking. I just have a stat I want to say. Yeah, I'm picking Todd Gilliland. That was probably his best race last year. He led 75 laps, yeah. And he ended up getting taken out late, but he had the winning truck. So I'm going to go with Todd Gilliland.
Well, since none of you took the driver that's on the hot streak lately, I'm going to go with Austin Hill.
It's a good pick. It's a real strong pick.
Now for Cup, the first person to pick is Zach.
Cup, oh boy. I'm going to go out on a limb here, which I should not be doing because I have a lot of points to make up. But I think this year's had a lot of surprises, so I'm going to go with Austin Dillon. I just have a good feeling about him. I think having Reddick right on his tail is going to put a little spark on him. And he's had good runs at Michigan in the past, and we've had some surprise winners lately. So I'm going to go with Austin Dillon.
Okay, and Justin, you're next to pick.
I'm not going to go far from that because for the exact same reasons that Zach stated, it's a duo race between Dillon and Reddick right now. And this is the kind of track where it's the pavement's a little bit older. I made this call for Atlanta earlier this year, and he ran extremely well in both stages too. So I'm going to go on the other side of that stable and pick Tyler Reddick.
Well, once again, the two of you are leaving the driver that's on the hot streak available, so I'm just going to take Larson.
Of course you are. But that's okay. You can have him because I'm taking my boy Willie B.
Okay, then.
Byron.
Yes,
nice.
Willie B. He's gonna put it in victory lane. And what does that do to the playoff positions? We really don't want, honestly, we need Reddick to win. Or Austin Dillon to win. We really want to screw things up in the playoffs. So, I mean, that would be like throwing a huge monkey wrench in the plans because
sets us up for Daytona.
Yeah,
screwed.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, if we really want to see chaos, we want a non-winning driver to win.
Yeah.
So
I mean, regardless, there's going to be one driver to make it on points, and unless Hamlin finishes last somehow in the next two races, Harvick's not catching him.
So Harvick has a chance of not making the playoffs with 2 to go.
Yeah.
What does that say
Yeah.
when Eric Almirola is going to be racing for a championship for sure?
Yeah. It was almost Briscoe this past, like for a little bit there, I was
Yeah.
thinking we were going to get two SHR guys winning and making the playoffs, and Harvick wouldn't win or even make the playoffs.
And then we know how much Daytona is a wild card, but I mean, you have a lot of guys that have won at restrictor plates, specifically at restrictor plate tracks that are below the cutoff. You got Stenhouse, you got Newman, who could easily pull something out of the bag. You got Suarez with that Trackhouse team that have been getting stronger and stronger. And then Matt DiBenedetto's always been strong at restrictor plate tracks. Man, this is going to get crazy.
Yeah, next week at Daytona, which myself and Zach and Matt Carson will be at to cover and bring back the action. That's going to be that's going to be one to watch for sure, with restrictor plates or tapered spacers, and letting it all hang out, because whatever happens this week will set up a hell of a showdown for next week.
Now, there is also an Xfinity race at Michigan. Granted, we're not doing Xfinity points just yet, but who are you picking for Xfinity?
Me?
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about it, honestly. I honestly, who's racing in which Cup Series drivers racing in it? Because
Bubba Wallace is,
Bubba Wallace
and Tyler Reddick is.
and Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, Wallace is racing for Hattori.
And who's
Reddick,
Tyler Reddick?
Our Motorsports.
Our
Yeah.
Motorsports. So it's an RCR car. Man, I don't know. Skip me and go and come back. I hadn't even thought about an Xfinity driver.
Well, here's what I'm going to do for Xfinity. I'm going to go, and it's not out on a limb, but I'm going to say this driver will win 3 races in 3 days. Ty Gibbs will win ARCA on Friday, Xfinity on Saturday, and ARCA on Sunday.
That's not a bad pick either, because I mean, you've got Ty Gibbs, who's in Grandpa's equipment, and he's going to have the best of it, and he's proven it all year long.
So, Justin, who are you picking for Xfinity?
I'm actually leaning towards Daniel Hemrick. He almost won at similar tracks like this on the schedule where the payment's a little bit older. I know the whole Atlanta deal kind of probably rubbed him and a lot of other people the wrong way, but look, Hemrick hasn't won anything in the top 3 series yet, and he's just been so close, especially this year, and I think this is where he finally breaks through.
And just a note, they are putting the same resin on the 2-mile oval at Michigan that they put on at Nashville Super Speedway. Zach, who are you picking?
I really don't know. There's a lot of good drive. I mean, it's tough because they didn't run Michigan last year, so I usually look at the last year's results and kind of go off that. I have Allgaier down. I'll probably go with Justin. He's starting top 5, and he tends to be pretty good everywhere.
And just a note for Allgaier, he's actually running the ARCA race on Sunday at the Springfield Dirt Mile. Wow. First ARCA race since 2008.
That's crazy. Wow. There's been so much of that, of drivers making their first starts in like 10, 15 years. I
was going to say, there's also an ARCA driver on Sunday, Mike Goody, who's making his first start since 1995.
Jesus.
Oh, nice. That's a long time ago, like 5 years after I graduated high school.
And a dirt mile.
How is that even legal?
That's
it's the Springfield Fairgrounds track.
Sorry, Zach, I didn't mean to walk over you there. What were you saying?
No, it's fine. It's crazy that they can go that long without a start and they let them race. Like Bill Lester at Atlanta.
I'm sure he's probably been racing other things. It's not on Racing Reference anyway, whatever he has been racing.
Well, by the way, my pick is going to be Noah Gragson. So I'm going to pick Noah Gragson. So you mentioned Racing Reference.
The tire with 2 to go.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. That happens to a lot of drivers we're involved with. You mentioned Racing Reference, and I'd like to point people out. Go to the site, we had a special report from one of the Racing Reference writers this week, and we may be allowing them to post some more stuff on the site for their content.
Yeah, Vincent Delforge, I think I pronounced his name correctly. He wrote an article. He did a Q&A with Bobby Hillis Jr. over in the Arca Menards West Series.
So I just he reached out to us, and I gave him permission to have it posted on our site. And I think that's it's definitely a benefit for us. We're gonna try to set up an area where he can just do his own little thing, and it's not going to be affiliated with Kicking the Tires. It's just giving them a kind of a place to post some content. Guys, we do have one thing we need to talk about before we sign off, and that is I want to start Last Car. Okay, we talked about we talked to them earlier in the year, and I think Brock's on board with this. And we're going to promote it. We're going to cross promote it. But when we pick our picks for the final 10 for the Cup Series only, we're going to pick our winner. But you also have to pick who the last car is going to be. And they'll feature it. We'll feature, obviously, but they'll feature it over on their site too. And I'm sure they will weigh in, and we'll get Brock on the line to talk about it maybe next week.
Well, how about this? Let's have a little bit of fun and preview it. Who do you want, or I shouldn't say who do you want, but who do you think will finish last this week?
This week?
Want to finish last?
Who do I want to finish last? Oh, wait
I said, who do you think?
Let's see.
I said, who do you think?
Well, I want Kyle Larson to finish last, and I want Austin Dillon to finish last. And Jerry, who is your Cup pick? I want that one to finish last. Oh yeah, Byron. So
yeah,
I walked myself into that one.
Who do you want to finish last? Huh?
Who do you think?
Which driver has ticked me off before? Let me think about this for a second. Who's refused to do an interview with me, or
no.
Yeah.
Only one guy can finish last, Jimmy.
Only one. Oh, yeah, no kidding. There can be only one. I'm thinking this weekend, man. Oh gosh, I'm looking at. There's actually we have a much stronger field than you would think. It's going to be somebody that wrecks. So probably Quinn
wrecking.
I was totally. I feel bad, but I was just about to say, "Oh, you mean Quinn House?"
Well,
and look, Quinn. Please do not hate me, dude. I mean, somebody's got to finish last, but most likely it probably won't be Quinn, because it'll be somebody that's going for the lead, and it could be Harvick.
I was going to say the only other thing I could think of is I know Rick Ware Racing has been struggling with some mechanical failures on the ovals lately, so I could see maybe one of their cars having some sort of mechanical issue.
I'm not going to put that on Cody Ware's shoulders. I'm sorry. No, I think
that's why I'm not naming a driver.
Cody.
That's why I'm not naming a driver.
We are not going to name Rick Ware or any of the. No, we're going to go with Starcom or someone else along those lines. At least this week, because we're having fun with it. But I mean, look, remember when we did mid-pack with Zach and Jimmy Johnson was 20th and Zach had to interview him? Yeah. I mean, it happens to the best of them.
Yep.
So, okay, so I gave Quinn Hoff's mine. Justin, who's your last pick?
I'm going to go big here. I'm going to say someone who's had a couple wins already this year, and say Alex Bowman's going to have some trouble early on.
Wow.
And of course, me being the stat guy, I would be the guy to know this. But I would say Keselowski gets his first last place finish.
Wow.
Ouch. Man, talk about put the mojo on Keselowski. Man, you're not going to get invited to the Christmas party. Zach, what's your call?
I'll go with Anthony Alfredo.
He's out of a ride after this year anyway.
Yeah,
no, he's not. But he's probably going to end up being in the Xfinity series as a development team, from what some of the things I'm hearing. But at least a part time.
He's just had a rough year, and he's been in a lot of accidents. He's got among the most DNFs this year. I know he's starting in the back, so I'll go with Alfredo. I hope he doesn't. He can definitely use a pick me up how this year's going. But yeah, I'll go with him.
The problem is you say these things and you instantly feel bad about it because you like these guys. The guys that are racing at the back of the pack, they're usually pretty cool. They're really nice guys. They're just trying to make a living. It's some of the ones up front that are kind of, jerks at times. So, the ones that, we probably, in our hearts would like to see have a bad day. They'll probably not, but
right.
Like everyone's opposite picks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's going to do it here for us this week, Kicking the Tires on the Kickin' Show. Tune in next week as Zach and I and Matt are in Daytona. I guess we'll be doing the show the day before we leave for Daytona. But we appreciate you guys tuning in, watching every week, and remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and social media, and Facebook, and all of the. I think we even do Instagram. I don't do it that much, but apparently our photos end up there a lot. So with great photography from Zach and Christian like we had last weekend, you definitely need to check it out. We'll see y'all next week.